what make you to think about cybersecurity and when you started your journey in cybersecurity?
I didn't choose actively cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity chose me for whatever reason.
So what is exactly the role of CISO? What he exactly do in the company?
From my point of view, how I see CISO's role is a communicator.
My question is that how to build a security strategy from the scratch.
So first of all, you need to understand the business.
So we have a control over the identity. What would be the next step?
What kind of vendors you are communicating with? What kind of access do they have?
As post-COVID, we had seen the mobile workforce and all that. People have shifted from work from office to work from home.
Trajectory of say last 5-6 years, right? Pre and post.
If someone want to build a strategy with framework, how to build framework from scratch?
So you need to be in charge of your device as well, along with identity.
How to create a framework? What should be the important things need to consider when you're building a framework?
So they give a frame of reference to think how to think about security.
What is a skill an aspiring CISO must learn to become a good CISO?
Communication is super important, right? Written, oral, as everything, right?
Hi team, welcome to the session on Coffee with Prab, and we have today Mr. Asim Rastogi join us. And he is a seasoned cybersecurity professional with over 2 decades of experience in cybersecurity, governance, engineering, and all that. And Asim has played an instrumental role in building high-performance security team in the different verticals. He also played a very important role in shaping the cybersecurity landscape, particularly in the different startup and enterprise. And the best thing about his is he balancing the technical with business acumens and all that. And he's known for his creative problems, which he solved by the different elements. And I personally know him from his blogs, writing, and all that, what he do on LinkedIn. Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for taking on the time for this particular session. I'm really grateful that weekend, it's not something taking on the time for such kind of an activity, but taking on the weekend for this particular initiative. Thank you, sir, and giving back to society.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure is mine.
So welcome, sir. So Asim, sir, like before we going to start this particular podcast, so I always ask this question from all the speakers, all the part of who come to my session and all that. So what make you to think about cybersecurity and when you started your journey in cybersecurity?
Well, I didn't choose actively cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity chose me for whatever reason. So
Very good point.
So I've been lucky from, if we say that way, right? So as I mean, as my first job itself was in cybersecurity and in development. So and then I went on to development for a while, and then again when I was coming back to India from US after 11 years, again I ended up with cybersecurity. So this was again this thing, right? So and since then. So we just in cybersecurity. So most of it is in cybersecurity itself.
So now it is like, people say it's my passion or it is my learning. That's why I'm in. So what is the most important thing which make you feel, okay, yes, this is something I love. And, I don't want to give any gyan and all that, which is people used to say. So what is the reality behind to stick to the cybersecurity for 25 years?
Yeah. So see, for me, every day has to be fun, right? And I should enjoy it. Right. And I don't know about, right, this passion, etc. It's just, I don't know even how to find it. So I don't know. For me, it was like, I'm enjoying it. And I love going into the weeds, love talking to leaders. So it's the entire range I love. So just keep it going. I don't even count days or years. It just happens.
And team, those who watching this video, he's an IITian, okay? So what he's talking about is different perspective, but I know from where he's talking about, but yes, I understand this passion and all that we say on paper, but the energy behind, the persistence behind of doing cybersecurity is different. So I can see in your statements, in your blog writing and all that. So I will directly come to the point, for which I invited you and all that. So, sir, like, there is always a question among all the people is, Prab, we joining as a CISO in the organization, okay, or we joining as a CISO in the organization. When I reviewing your profile and all that, and in one of your articles, you talk about a lot of things around engineering, cybersecurity strategy, and all that. Sir, can you just tell me about myth and fact about CISO, what he exactly do in the company? So what we see in LinkedIn, okay, and what is exactly the work of CISO, whether it's a service company, whether it is a product company, whether it's a consulting company, whatever, Big Four and all that. So what is exactly the role of CISO? What he exactly do in the company?
So security is a very complex subject, and it has too many tentacles going to infrastructure, maybe behaviors, right? It's all over the place. So from my point of view, how I see CISO's role is a communicator.
Okay.
And what I mean by communicator is, uh, so he's bridging the technology with risk and business needs. So these are the like three things which a CISO is trying to bridge. So I'll elaborate a bit with an example, right? So you have business risks which are going on, right? Which are business leaders understand, but they don't understand the downstream cybersecurity related impacts.
Yeah.
A business need says, all right, let's build this API.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, this API can be built, but the problem there is somebody could siphon off data using the exact same API. And if it will take, it's the security risks are not being taken care of upfront. So that's what CISO's role is, to communicate with business leaders what the business risks are, right? From a implementation point of view as well, design and all of that. And you scale it up further to board level and at a company strategy level. There are risks which cybersecurity risks which needs to be addressed, like reputation risk, right? What decisions you need to take in order to safeguard reputation, right? And on the other side is the technology team, who needs to be guided on how do they conduct their day-to-day business in order to implement things securely. So those risks like reputation risk or a customer data trust, etc., can be maintained. So that's how I see this CISO role uh, going forward also.
And when we say about like CISO does risk assessment, is it a myth or it's a fact?
It's not a myth, but risk as such it has many dimensions. So if you think about risk, right, there could be a financial risk, there could be enterprise risk, right? So when we say risk, what do we mean by risk, right? So CISO is the best position to understand and communicate cybersecurity related risks. But there are other risks also. So the whole matrix needs to come together if you're talking about some kind of a big enterprise.
That's a good, that the reason why I asked this question is because, in a lot of companies or a lot of consultants, they have their viewpoint about, okay, CISO does risk assessment or security manager does risk assessment, because you heading the security division in your organizations. And so that's why I was wondering, is he really involved in the operation level doing information security risk assessment where he interacting with business owners? So that was the reason of this question. Yeah, I agree that, okay, assurance is a different risk, information security different risk. So it's all about, he's just like a communicator who explain about the risk to the board and get the buy-in approval from the management. Can we say in this way, sir?
Yeah, and it's not just communicating, getting things done also, right? That's what gets you respect, right? You communicate the risks, you bring everybody together, and that's how you get budgeting and resources for executing your vision. But then you have to align people on the execution part as well and get things done.
Agree.
So yeah, that part is very important.
And sir, how to learn that?
I wish I had a formula for that.
But any tips? Because you are on the front facing side of that, so I thought, let me drill down on that area and we get a great learning from that. So I was wondering, how can we learn those things, and what is it something like, can be come with experience, or because getting in a budget approval or unit of economics is not something, not every CISO has a cup of tea, because not every CISO come from that background of that, management and all that. So what is your viewpoint on that, and what kind of recommendation you have for the people who are watching this video?
Right. So I mean, for having a good execution, right, it all depends on its execution is actually an outcome of your planning.
Exactly.
So if your planning is good, it's yet flexible enough, right? So for example, have your dependencies sorted, right? Which task depends on what, right? Where is the slack in the project, right? So if you have a complex task of, say, roll out some kind of a product, right? So what are the unintended consequences that people oftentimes forget, right? Because security is actually you are interrupting people's normal workflow.
Exactly.
And when that happens, people are going to find shortcuts. right?
Agree.
So when the shortcut comes, like, is it going to harm you so much that the original project itself fails?
Agree. I agree.
If that is understood and thought through, you can take certain steps before, and that will help put all these things on track. So because you already have anticipated that and put the second order risk on the table, and you can plan those outcomes. So that is very important, and the plan has to be written down, right? I still use Microsoft Office. I don't know this Microsoft project
Yeah.
secretly because
Yeah.
nobody else does, and nobody else also has it. I have a
Agree.
personal subscription. And then I try to use that. So that gives me. I know a lot of this work has gone into Jira and other tools, Monday, etc., etc. But when there is a complex project, I fall back to my comfort tool there. The reason being, it brings dependencies, and then if you do the resource loading correctly, it tells you where you might fail. You can color code the red tasks which are going to fail. Your project is going to fail.
Agree.
So those things are there. That's I use. I know nobody else does.
No, sir. Actually, that's why I say a good CISO is the one who good with documentations, who can able to present the facts in a more simpler manner, because security start with the keep it simple principle. If you cannot able to explain security in a simple manner, you cannot get an ban approval from the management or whatever the executions we have. And we also know productivity is all about planning plus execution. So I am going to note it down this point because the statement you said about execution, that's a very good statement. So I'm going to use in one of my sessions now. So that's a very good statement you said. Execution is all about the outcome. So sir,
Sure.
like, so as I said, if I join any organization, okay, as a CISO and all that, so we say, like, I'm coming to this point is because when you're talking about certification based trainings or skill based trainings, we say, okay, you need to understand vision, mission of the organizations and all that. So when we're talking about implementation of information security or associate governance, so my question is that how to build a security strategy from the scratch in any organization, like like meeting with the business owners or stakeholders, or what exactly the first, if I join as CISO, they don't have anything, they want to start cybersecurity from scratch, what should be the steps they should follow?
Right. So first of all, you need to understand the business risks.
Okay, good
That
point.
is step number one, right? Now, and then you also, uh, if I join some organization, first thing I do is also talk to all the stakeholders, and that brings out perceived risks.
Perceive risk mean?
Perceived risk in the sense, uh, the top leadership may not be thinking about those risks, but rest of the team, like your other tech leadership, etc., believes some kind of risks are there, which we may or may not be addressing. So if we take all the inputs from all the stakeholders, we also get some more risk which top leadership may not be aware of.
Okay, any examples, sir, if you want to share, because might be some
Yeah.
people are not joining from security core background. Yeah.
Right. So business leaders might be having some view on the risk, right? Because based on the business and all that, right? But if you talk to technology leaders, they may be already aware of certain risks in their technology, which they have implemented. But given there was no forum or a platform for them to surface that, and of course, it's not their core job, they keep it in the back of their mind. So when you go to ask them, they will readily tell you. And I've leveraged that several times. So go for a coffee with a technology leader in development or right, other support side or whatever, right? And they will tell you very openly that what the kind of risk they see. And from a security or point of view, we don't see those risks because we don't live there.
Exactly.
So if you want to take a holistic view of the risk, we talk to as many stakeholders as possible. And of course, take the business view on that. So once you understand that, then you also take a compliance view, right? What is the compliance needs? Right? And then who are your stakeholders? And what are their needs in terms of cybersecurity, right? What do they want to see addressed, right? Once you understand that, then you can come up with the business goals for your cybersecurity organization.
Okay.
And that way you can prioritize, because once you have spoken to all the leaderships and everybody's thing, right? And compliance needs, etc., then you have everything on the table, and you can prioritize and see how things are.
So we do. So once you document the business goals, like whatever the business goals we have from the risk perspective or functionality perspective, and then we do risk assessment and gap assessment, or we first spend on all the strategic goals and all that in the information security strategy. Do we really follow that principle, or what exactly it is?
Right. So once you have understood all the risks, then go for baseline, right?
Okay.
Because this is the end state, right? If you get all the goals, what you're really getting is, if you address all these things, everybody is satisfied.
Agree.
Right? Now you have the target at operating state. But if you're joined new, you don't know where the things stand. What is the state as of now, right? You spend some time, get the baseline done, right? So from various angles, and the baseline should be comprehensive enough from a CISO point of view, right? Now, don't do it from a business angle point of view.
Okay.
There might be certain businesses which are not even tabled, but it's there somewhere in the technology, right? Once you do the baseline assessment like cloud or IT or whatever, right? Then you get a baseline, and now you have two ends of the story, right? And that's when it goes back to the communication, right? How do you map the two and come up with an action plan?
Okay. Is it possible? Can you, if you can able to explain with some examples and scenario? I'm not saying that taking the real company scenarios, but any hypothetical scenario, so we get the better visibility and we can able to connect those dots.
Yeah, I'll take a very real example, which happens everywhere, right? If you take any company's G Suite, right? And if there are like 100, 200, or maybe 500 employees, then what I've seen is G Suite goes out of whack. There are groups, there are email IDs which are aliases. It says team-finance1. Like, what is team-finance1? Nobody knows.
Exactly.
Right? How many people have the team-finance1's IP address, this password? You will not know. So these things crop up. Now, this risk will not be visible to the business leaders or stakeholders at all, because they don't know. And when you do baselining, that's when you can uncover these things, right? So that's one example. Now, what you can do is you can go and sweep through and find out how many such IDs exist, and then nobody knows how many API keys have been attached to attributed to this particular ID, and then where all those keys have been used everywhere. It goes all over the place.
Yeah, I agree.
And I wouldn't be surprised if people find there's a lot of things which are running for like 5 years. And who knows, probably ex-employees have the passwords and everything else.
And it could lead to shadow IT also.
Yeah, you just don't know, because it's a common tribal knowledge now with the team which created it. So these things essentially crop up and grow over time. And in order to get a handle on it, you have to do a complete baseline.
Okay.
So this is one risk which probably is not known. Second risk is similarly, it's very easy these days to say sign up with Google.
Sharing a
right?
credential.
You take a sign up with Google, right? You're logged into your browser already. This is a small window which comes on the right-hand side, says continue as XYZ. You click continue, that's it. No sign up, no nothing, no password. It's very easy. There's no friction. So what really happens is corporates unknowingly get into a lot of these third-party apps authorization.
Agree.
So these are the type of risks which are crazy from our point of view, right? Once we took a list somewhere, right? I was helping somebody and asked him to go and get a list of all the apps. He was surprised. There was some
why we need that
apps. Like, okay, you go and first figure out what is your business need and then boot out everybody else.
Great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So see, that's why, like inventories can be also depending upon the business. If things are already as crazy stuff in the enterprise, things are complex, it's better follow top-down approach. Understand the business, map the asset with the business, and organize and classify.
Yeah,
can we see like that?
We can, but I would say let's not go as far as mapping assets to the business, because
asset a business also. I'm saying I'm talking about anything, process and all that. It's not about only servers and all that. I'm talking process here. Process is an asset.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can definitely say that. Yeah.
So, sir, you said business goals has been defined, and after that, what is the next step after that? We do risk assessment, and once we done the risk assessment, then what is the next step?
So then, what we need to do is, right, how do we map the two together now. Now you have all the risks from all the angles, and you know the baseline. Now, how do you solve it? That's essentially a problem-solving exercise now.
Gap assessment, yeah.
And yeah, gap assessment, right? So once you have understood that, you can build a plan around it and a strategy around it.
Okay.
That what are the risks which are you're going to address first, right? What is the second, right? So on and so forth. And then you can do some rough maths on the budgeting side, resourcing side, right? So that at a high level. So once you understand that, it's easy. And to get the budget, you have to communicate in terms of dollars and cents in the risk, right? I mean, if we talk about XMLs and right SSO budgets and stuff like that, it's very difficult for finance person to understand and appreciate the risk, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, one thing which has personally helped me is I want this to address this. If this doesn't happen, this is what may happen.
Okay.
So the second line is very, very important. That if doesn't happen, this is
what impact and financial impact, because they are learning
impact. If you can quantify financial impact, yes. If not, reputation, then loss of reputation or loss of any right things like that.
Agree, because that is a point. The question I was about to ask is, how do you allocate a budget for cybersecurity initiatives, and what will be the criteria do you use to prioritize those spending? So can we say, like, can we use this reference here, like, okay, this is the formula you're talking about this is, if you don't going to implement this is the impact, and this is how you need to prioritize. So can we use this kind of a benchmark or business case to prioritize the cybersecurity initiatives when we're presenting to the board and management?
Yeah, sure, definitely, because that's the risk and the impact, right? So we are trying to address a risk, and if you're trying to address that risk, there is a certain cost to that.
Okay.
Right, and if you don't address that risk, something is going to happen. So that's how it works.
And Aseem sir, I'm sure you have seen a lot of companies, especially in India or support center in India, they face a lot of issues with budgetary constraint with information security initiatives.
Right.
So, what is the recommendation in that case when you work for startups where we have they always say security as a cost center, not a value. But by end of the day, security is creating enabler. So I'm sure you have seen in the recent example where one of the insurance company facing some repercussion regarding a reputation from the security incident. So the companies like the startups where security spendings are very less. So what is the recommendation? How to prioritize, and what is the recommendation in terms of CISO that how to manage security in that case with limited budget, where we have a single technology, not a stack and all that. So what is the recommendation in that case? How with a limited budget we can able to manage security? Because not every company having a worth budget for cybersecurity initiatives. So how do you prioritize in that case?
You're very right? Because cybersecurity is understood to be a cost center. It's not contributing to the revenue, right? And
if you're working for product company or internal to that, if you're working for service or you itself is a service provider, then it's a different cost. Like you work for Big Four, you're providing security as a service, then it's a different thing. I'm talking about internal to security, which is like a cost center, not a value enabler.
Right. Yeah. So that is true. I mean, that's where these issues are. And it's a very hard nut to crack because it ties back to the
CISO,
to the business, right? Now, one of the things though is how do you prioritize? That can be answered.
Yeah.
Right. Because the way to prioritize it, again, going back to the business risk, right? And the thing is, not every businesses can be addressed or need to be addressed today. It can be like another 6 months, or some low cost things can be done in order to kind of put a bandage for now till you get the budget. Right? So you can do some that kind of thing where you go half the way, don't solve everything, right? But for some of the things where you don't have budget, just do something for now, which will kind of put you on this thing, right? On the path to the solution, but may not be the solution.
But have you ever faced such kind of a situation in past, in 25 years, where, you have a limited budget and with that you have optimized the security?
All the time. I mean, nobody gives a budget for security, whatever we ask for. So it's always a prioritization. One thing what I've tried to do is try to prioritize identity control first.
Great point. Yeah.
So if you don't have control over your identities in the org, you don't have anything, right? You don't
Excellent
have any
point. Yeah.
control. And that's why I went back to this Google example, which I shared earlier. Basically, you're not in charge of your identities. And then no matter what control you put downstream, it's not going to help you, because someday something happens and you, in your logs and security monitoring, you see this ID, which is a team ID. Now, what do? I mean, you caught the attack. What? There's no attribution to a natural human being.
Exactly.
So that's where I think the prioritization from my personal point of view, always go for identity first and then go to the rest of the things.
And that initially, I was having this impression is e-commerce portals like Amazon and all that, booking.com, they used to give this option to log in with Google. So I was an impression that, okay, it is just to create a ease of access for the customer, not to lose interest, because we select the hotel, we select the date, and when it comes to payment, they say create an account. So there is a possibility, the customer might lose the interest in the booking.com. It's a common thing, the era of internet and all that. That's why they're giving you option login with Google. But if you see the actual history, the purpose behind using a third-party credential, because you're limiting the accountability, you're having a data minimization very limited, because now you're not creating an account in your database. Because if you go by the privacy, if you talk about security and all that, minimization drives the security. More data you collect, more accountability comes to you. So in this case, login with SSO or login with Federation, actually reducing your accountability, because identity owned by Google. We just providing them for the services. So we become a service provider. So this is how that's why, I able to connect your dots when you said the first control is control on identity, which is called IAM and all that. And sir, when it comes to control, okay, so we have a control over the identity. What would be the next step? Like, what are the other controls would you recommend when we having a limited budget, but we need to prioritize that? And if you don't give, it can be a big impact.
Right. So then, I mean, once you have gotten a hang of your identities, then you can go for your third parties, right?
Okay.
What kind of vendors you are communicating with, what kind of access do they have, right? What kind of identity do they have? Because a lot of times vendor might have a shared ID as per contract or whatever, and as a CISO, you may not be able to change that overnight.
Agree.
So that some of those IDs are going to remain shared. Yeah. But at least you have to start something to the vendor side where you get a lot more control or visibility over those IDs, who has access to what, and at least the risk appreciation needs to go back to the vendor. So those type of things can be done next, right?
Okay.
And then of course there are many competing things like your product security, your cloud security, your IT security, depending on what kind of data your users have on their laptops, sales reports and investments, etc., right? There are multiple things out there. So that depends on the business risk an organization is carrying.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So with the continuation of this question, I'm talking about that, said as post-COVID, we had seen the mobile workforce and all that. People have shifted from work from office to work from home, and the security become very decentralized. So how do you see, does it impact the budget when it comes to decentralization of security? And is it creating a lot of, is it increasing a workload for CISO also to oversight the security?
So, I mean, if I see trajectory of say last 5-6 years, right, pre and post COVID, definitely budgets increased.
Okay.
Teams increased, tool purchase budgets increased. So it was like across the board. And reason was not something like newfound love for security business leaders had, but a lot of unknowns were there.
Okay.
Right. So it was a collective thing where every organization allocated a lot more budget. Every organization started a lot more hiring security folks, etc., right? So there's a permanent kind of expansion as such. It appeared,
okay,
right at the time that good days of security has come, right?
Agree.
So that's how it worked, right? Because of right, a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right, as they call it, FUD.
FUD. Yeah.
So that happened. And then afterwards, again, some stabilization came, and people are getting grip of what's happening, what's not happening. So it's a mean reversion. So I see now is mean reversion in terms of budgets, in terms of hiring, in terms of tool, right, everywhere. So and you can see that the discounts vendors are dishing out now, right? Uh,
Agree.
5-year deal in a 2-year price, stuff like that, right?
And when you see the price parts and all that, when it comes to price part, so we're talking about here also the frameworks we use for implementing the controls and all that, as it's a mobile workforce and all that. So what is the recommendation, and if someone want to build a strategy with framework, how to build framework from scratch with the support of controls and all that?
Yeah, for mobile workforce, there is additional dimension with
Hmm.
identity, which is device.
Hmm.
So you need to be in charge of your device as well, along with identity
Hmm.
and the association of the two.
Agree.
So this is fundamentally what was not needed before, as much need, right, as
Hmm.
the need is today.
Hmm.
So when people come in to your office, right, have desktop or laptop or whatever,
Hmm.
they connect to your own devices, things like that. And if they bring personal device, it doesn't work, right? So a lot of those things were in place. Now with mobile things, now your device, which is corporate device, your actually organization is now extended enterprise,
Yeah,
which is supposed to work on any network.
I agree.
But it is supposed to be one way. Your personal devices need not connect to this thing, right? Your corporate networks.
True.
So that's where there's a paradigm shift, and that part has to be catered very diligently,
Hmm.
because any misconfiguration or things can lead to huge data loss.
Agree. So, but the question is basically, if I'm selecting any framework, like we have a NIST framework, we have a uh, COSO and all that. So, is a CISO, when he join any company, he create his own framework there, or he follow the framework? And I got a task. I want to build cybersecurity governance. Okay, strategy has been finalized. How to create a framework, like, what should be the important things need to consider when you're building a framework, because framework is a list of controls that is used to manage cybersecurity or achieve the outcome of cybersecurity. So what is your recommendation in that case, if someone is watching this video and he want to learn how to build cybersecurity from scratch?
Right. So uh, all these frameworks like ISO, NIST, etc., really good.
Hmm.
Um, they are large, so they give a frame of reference to think how to think about security, right?
Good
However,
point.
they are largely coming from an angle of compliance.
Okay.
Like if you take SOC 2, right, any such framework, uh, and security and compliance have a very complicated relationship with each other.
Agree.
Uh, Even though they are said in a single breath, but they have a very complicated relationship. Actually, if you ask me, compliance should be an outcome of a well-run security program.
Good point. Yeah.
But what really happens in practice is we start with compliance
Based on a
and
compliance we
end
create a
with
program.
compliance, right?
And then again we do gap assessment.
Yeah, and that becomes the goal itself, right? Compliance should be an outcome metric,
Yeah, agree.
right? But it becomes the goal metric.
Yeah. And if you
And
have a compliance first, so if you have a framework first and framework is built on a compliance, sorry, outcome of the compliance, that save time also. Because we are very clear about, okay, these controls required as per compliance, we have to implement. Instead of first we have the framework, then we do tailoring and scoping.
right. So one of the things which I've done in the past several times is I've come up with my own framework, sort of, right?
Okay.
Which of course takes frame of reference from NIST and everywhere else. However, it goes something like this, right? So you define a pillar, right? The pillar is going to be something like, as per your org, it could be product security, cloud security, IT security, right? So different domains which you want to cater to. So
Agree.
that's your pillars, right? And for each pillar, you define certain business goals, and it should be very business oriented, which can be communicated back to the business community, or people who are owning the budget, right? So for example, it could be pen testing of, say, of P0 services
Hmm.
every quarter, right? And 100% coverage.
Hmm.
That would be your one business goal. And this is very clear. Business team understands that you're
Hmm.
going to cover all P0 services every quarter, which means you're going to anyway address your P0, P1, etc., right? Which are going to be found.
Agree.
So that becomes very clear that your coverage point of view, you're good now. And the second metric could be, say, you will do non-P0s, say, once every year, right? So P0 every quarter and P1, I mean, rest of it, right? P1. Now, once you have defined the business goal, then you have to define what projects are required, right? So the projects are, what is a project, right? So you break it down into certain projects. Like, for example, you need to first say set up Jira workflows, right? You may not have it correctly in order to have this kind of coverage, or you may not have list of P0 services at all, or they may not be risk ranked. So those things might be missing. And so when you start with this goal, then you break it down and say, okay, what are my enablers for this goal? So you put that enablers in place. That's your project. And then you break it down one more further and say initiatives. So that project gets broken up into, say, another 3 or 4 tasks, which are initiative, which is the lowest common denominator, which you can track.
Work breakdown structure.
At least say on a monthly time resolution. So now your business goal, which might run several quarters, and with every breakdown, you're just reducing the time resolution. And now you have something which you can report on, which is monthly. Right? You're not going to report after a quarter and say, nahi hua.
Exactly.
Right? Or it's going to take another 2 months. So that's not going to help. So you break it down to time resolution till it goes to the 1 month. Right? And then you establish a baseline metric on that, right? Where do you stand on that? Is Jira workflow is there or not even there?
Exactly.
And now that gives a goal for your team to go and talk to dev team and see how it can be set up, or what is the best way to do it. And again, if you want to make it a lot more complex, you can attach a maturity indicator to that. Right? So you can say, this is my initiative. However, in this quarter or this month, I will do it at ad hoc
Level
manner.
0. Ad hoc, yeah.
Ad hoc manner. I'll just get it done. Right? I'll open an Excel sheet and fill up something and say, that's how I'll do it, because I can't achieve everything in a day. Next month, you ratchet it up and say, I will implement a Jira ticket itself and the fields itself. And the next month, you say, there will be an automated workflow and then it will start blocking people.
Here we're creating a fear, actually.
Yeah, so, but not day one. Right? Day one is on Excel sheet. Everything goes. Then you tighten the noose. Right? So you go step by step. And because that, the reason it helps is it builds success story. You work with the team and see, people think CISO is sitting in an ivory tower, right? They dictate XYZ and poof, it should happen. It doesn't work, right?
Exactly.
So if you just go on the weeds with the team and say, all right, here is the Excel sheet, let's work together, figure it out, because we might know what their current workflow looks like and how do we design the Jira workflow, which is non-interruptive.
True.
Or less interruptive.
True.
That's why this step-by-step approach is helpful. So now you got the full scenario here, and now you can track at a monthly level, and for your team, you can build further weekly basis or daily or however way you want it, right? And that's how, if you do the time resolution breakup here, something goes wrong here, you know what is going to impact.
I agree.
So that's and then similarly you can break down every single goal, and once this goal is achieved, this task may not be required anymore, right? Because you have set up Jira workflow, you don't need to do it again. Next quarter, this task will not exist. Next quarter, you will do risk ranking, or maybe your P0's service catalog, which probably doesn't exist. True. So how do you build that catalog first, right? How do you keep it up to date? It's a hard task.
True.
First, getting the service inventory itself is hard.
I agree.
So those things might require a second project. Like, for example, your infrastructure is not even tagged. So how do you get the service in production? You have no idea.
No idea, because it's not been documented. Yeah.
So then this project gets blocked. Now what you do is go back to your infrastructure line item there and say, get the tagging done first, because without tagging, you're not going to get a picture.
Exactly. Classification.
Right. So that's how, when you break this down, this framework, right, for your organization, There's actually burnout not needed.
Hmm.
Because once you have broken down everything, it's hard work. It takes month and a half to get everything sorted one by one, right?
True.
But once it is done, you have a roadmap. You have your North Star.
Yeah, so framework is organize all this activity into one structure format.
Yeah, activity and then activity roll back to your project goals, and it creates a business value. It's all communicated clearly in an Excel sheet or wherever you want.
Great. And so when it comes to this, the framework you're talking about, the one you created, do you use to modify this for every organization where you worked, or you like, is a CISO created for his own knowledge and then he used to adapt according to the company, or what exactly it is? Like, is he really spend his first month on building all these deliverables before he actually start his executions and all that?
No, not first month. I would say, if you want to see from a timeline point of view, first month, of course, is get to know the risks, right?
True.
So that's your first month. You talk to everybody, leaders, etc., right? Business, technology, understand, right? Document all those things. Second month is your baseline, right? You finish both of them. Third month, I have done two things. One, I've built this plan secretly. Reason being, if I say I'm building this plan only, everybody is like, after 1 month, what's going to happen? Some Excel sheet.
Agree.
Right? And Excel, nobody is excited about hearing that there is an Excel sheet which is an outcome.
Yeah.
I don't know when I was excited about Excel sheet as an outcome.
That is good on documentation, not on results, sir.
Yeah. So pick up one or two things, right? Which will create success story. And that's why I love this Google example, right? You start with that Google example, you spend 1 hour a week or whatever, right? Get things done. And in the 2 weeks, you have a success story.
Agree.
So you build these kind of success stories, which are important and urgent, right? And you know by experience that you need to deal with it. So why wait for Excel sheet to emerge?
Exactly.
With your baseline, you already know this thing is required or not.
Yeah.
I mean, if everything is good, very good. You don't need to work on that. This is good, but at least communicate to the business leader, we are good here. It's not all about gaps.
Exactly.
Or what needs to be done. It is also about what the team earlier has done well.
True.
So communicate that baseline, at least that these 10 things are good. They're really good. And what they really needs to be done over here is maybe increase their maturity. But that's not this thing, right? We need to do it today. Let's find other gaps and do it. And nothing wrong with that.
True. See, if things can be done in a that urgency to impact level, we can do it. Otherwise, we're following those deliverables and work breakdown structure and we execute.
Yeah.
And sir, like the last question I want to ask you here is, what is a skill an aspiring CISO must learn to become a good CISO? What is your 5 points or whatever the points? What do you think they should? Because this podcast also watched by those people who are consultants, they want to become a CISO. So the mistake what you did, you want to avoid for the future CISO who want to become a good CISO. So what is your recommendations?
The communication is super important, right? Written, oral, as well as everything, right?
Soft skills. More
than a skill, right? Soft skill is about interpersonal, how you communicate with people, right? How you influence, things like that. What I'm talking about is how do you articulate things? Whether and it's not that easy, because when you're writing something, you're writing from your own perspective. How the other person is perceiving, right? If I go and tell about Kubernetes or whatever to a finance
they'll not understand.
Type for getting a tool budget, it's not going to help. You might write whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right? It might be the best write-up in the world. It might be cure to the cancer, but it's not going to help. So that stakeholder analysis and writing clearly and concisely. And another thing which I have used many times is nobody reads beyond one scroll.
So if first 2 line is important.
First phone screen, whatever phone, one screen, that's all you got. After that, you can write whatever you want. But if you want to generate an impact that your ask is clearly understood and risks are understood, communicate in that phone.
Understood. It is same like, the best solution in this world is checkpoint, but the best solution is the one which meet the business requirement.
Right. Right.
So my perspective is that the Checkpoint or Palo Alto is the best solution. But
Right.
the first question is it really meeting the business requirement? That's the
Right.
most important part. So
Right.
communication, you said, is a more, and I'm telling you one thing, sir, like, you'll be surprised to know that as I did my schooling from government school, and I'm actually Malayali, but I brought up in Delhi, and I have a Delhi culture of 20 years, 20 years. So when I did my trainings and consulting, so I used to receive the first feedback which I received in consulting is, Prab, you're good with technical implementations and all that, even your governance is good, but English is pathetic. And he told me upfrontly on my face. So, then that day I understood, no matter you are a pen tester, you are an AppSec guy, you are one of the best bug bounty expert in this world, but if you're not able to express yourself, what you exactly did, then you are a failed consultant. So no matter, like, okay, on an operational level, it is okay. Communication doesn't matter, but when you want a leadership, you're speaking to the business, you have to understand their perspective, because you are a subject matter expert to the business team why security is important, and you are the subject matter expert to operation team why this business is important. And in both things, I think communication is very important, how you communicate.
Right. 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 Yeah. And second skill, which is most important, is of course your expectation management.
Ha. I
Because
just want to
now,
discuss that part. Yeah,
yeah.
what is that exactly?
So when you talk about expectation, right? Every stakeholder, depending on what they have heard about security, have some expectation
Hmm.
that security org is going to do for them, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and it's very important to align that expectation, which is generally not said because you're not directly reporting to them,
Hmm.
right? So they may or may not even communicate, or they may not even have the vocabulary to communicate,
Agree.
right? But they're a stakeholder, their view matters.
Hmm.
In probably some kind of a budget allocation or some kind of prioritization, right? Their view is going to matter. So
Agree.
that expectation management is very important to understand the perspective of everybody who is a stakeholder in your say or execution or budgeting process.
Agree.
So that expectation management is important. That what tasks are being done and what it's going to do, and most importantly, also communicate what this is not going to do.
Is it easy to say?
Sorry,
Is it easy to say?
I
Because
mean,
sometimes you have to be diplomatic.
yeah, I mean during COVID, breathing was also not easy.
Agree.
That was also very hard. Now we
Yeah,
don't even look at it.
agree.
So nothing is easy, and nothing worth doing is easy. So, but yeah, we need to do it. Expectation management is definitely required.
Instead of say no, better to say later no and all that, because if you say yes to them, then you have to, by hook and crook, you have to do that.
We don't have to say yes to everything, and everybody
Exactly.
understands. Yeah, and in fact, we should say more often no than yes.
It's good for productivity also, actually.
Yeah, and it basically what really happens, right? A lot of time people ask, right? What do I do? I give them reverse advice. I said you should first figure out what you don't want to do. Do it reverse. Don't do it like because I can do 10 things. I don't know what to do. I have no idea.
Agree.
But it's not about can, it's about what do you want to do, which means you have to figure out first what you don't want to do.
I agree with that part.
Cut that out, whatever is left, you will like something or the other and you will get it done.
Agree. So expectation management is a very important thing. And so do we document this, or what exactly it is?
But there are various ways of managing expectations, right? So
Hmm.
you can meet people quickly, often, things like that. Not everything can be communicated, right? Because it's a complex subject. There are too many moving parts. And if you try to explain too many complex things, right?
Don't understand.
Yeah, they might not understand, or it might look like an excuse because there is too many moving parts here, right? If this, then this, right? There are a lot of things here. So I mean, I don't know what to say here. It's an art which if everybody has to figure out. I don't have any shortcuts, or I don't even know whether I'm doing it right or not. So
Agree.
I have no idea. Just because I'm on the podcast, I don't know whether I'm doing right or not, right? So
No, sir. You really well see that I can say one thing. I personally observe your content, and it was completely different from what I have seen from others. That's the reason, sir. it is really honor for us to have you on this particular platform, sir. It is a great learning for us, definitely. And that is why, this some of the keywords which I found in your statements, very interesting statement. And I'm going to use in my further podcast, that's something I'm going to use. That, like, expectation management, success outcomes. So these are very good terms. So, sir, over to you, sir. There's a 2 points you said: expectation management and communication. What is another important skill, like, as per you?
Right. So the third thing, I guess, is you need to be recognized as a person who can get things done.
Okay.
This is the impression which you want to leave, right, with your business teams, with your other teams, that if you have communicated something, you'll get it done. And when that happens, you get the budget automatically. You get your voice goes much further, right? And you may not need too many other skills because you communicated, you will handle this risk with this much thing, and this is what is going to happen, and this is what will happen.
I agree.
And once you do that 2-3 quarters, people recognize that, okay, this is the person who will get things done.
True. Because you are a man of word. If you're able to make it, you get respect, you get everything, and according to that, that also build the trust. Like yeah. So we have invested money and we got the solution. So I think whatever you're going to do, it will give a proper results. To be frank.
Right. Yeah.
I agree. That's the most important part, and it actually drives the accountability also, right, sir?
Yes.
Because you're taking the accountability of everything.
Right.
And any other recommendations apart from the skills?
No, I guess this is these three I had top of my mind. But yeah, I mean, there are many. But yeah, those things I don't want to mention. Yeah.
And so, like, this is something, a very interesting podcast I did. I personally believe, because some of the key pointers, I did the similar podcast with Mr. Shiva. Shiva is basically with one of the fintech company. He's also CISO, and he used to write a lot of blogs on that. So there are 2 podcasts which I did. One of the best podcasts is this today one and that ones. And today, I want to tell you on your front that, okay, upfront, that I learned 3 things here. The expectation management, that is a very good thing. This is something new for me, to be frank. And second most important part about how you organize the framework, not just going by the gimmicks of Nest or checklist which you see in LinkedIn, which you really talk about the execution part, how you divide that framework into the work breakdown structure, business goals, and all that. So I really like these 2 statements, very important. I personally feel, okay, I'm going to use this in my project with your due permissions, because I really like that particular approach. Because so far what happened is I used to follow frameworks which I customize as per my requirement, or based on the regulatory and all that. But this is, I really like, outcome should be compliance should not be their input, because ultimately we are working for the compliance. So I really like that thing, sir. Thank you so much for that particular interesting part to be discussed in this podcast.
Thank you, Prav. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation as well. Yeah.
Hey, sir, here also I really enjoyed this conversation. And those who are watching this video, do let me know, shall we disturb again Mr. Aseem, sir, for the next podcast? Because people like you guys are very, very rare in this industry. And so just want to say one thing: keep up your writing, because your writing inspires like me, because I got a great learning from those writing, and I'm sure some of those things can inspire others also.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to know that it is helping. Yeah.
At least not others. For me, to definitely helping, because I'm using in my literature, in my consulting and all that, sir.
Cool. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time, and looking forward for more podcasts with you. I'm going to disturb you again for more weekends to be spoiled for upcoming podcast with you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And those who are watching this video, do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss the future videos on a similar topic. Good day. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.